Hello guys, Uncle Vasil welcomes you to yet another Uncle and Friends video. This time we are going to have a quick peek inside the history of the Netherlands. I hope you guys enjoy. Let's get started. Chapter 1: Frontier of Water and Tribes. Before proper infrastructure was developed, the Netherlands consisted mainly of wetlands, bogs, marshes, and rivers. Famous rivers such as the Rhine, Meuse, and Scheldt often caused floods because they frequently shifted their courses. Much of the land was too wet for stable agriculture and farming. One thing that helped early inhabitants survive in these areas were the so-called terpen, artificial dwelling mounds that kept settlements above flood levels. This unique terrain and geographic location played an important role in shaping Dutch economy, architecture, and culture throughout the centuries. Human presence in what we now call the Netherlands dates back to the Paleolithic era, and early communities relied on farming, fishing, and hunting to support themselves. Among the most well-known tribes during the Roman period were the Frisians, who controlled the northern coasts, and had a sea and trade-based culture. Another major group were the Batavi, who lived in the Rhine Delta and on the river islands, occupying a secure and strategic position. The Canaanites lived in the western coastal regions. The sandy areas of the east were inhabited by the Saxons, who were also a dominant group in parts of early medieval England. All of these tribes were considered Germanic in terms of language and culture, and their trade networks connected them with Central Europe and Britain. Between the 1st and 4th centuries, the Romans began building forts along the river Rhine. Local tribes had direct contact with the Romans, and many of them eventually fell under Roman influence or control. Many Batavian soldiers served the empire and fought for Rome in places such as Britain and Gaul. The Frisians were one of the few tribes that resisted Roman authority and maintained a high degree of independence. Eventually, the Romans began withdrawing from the region, and other Germanic groups, such as the Franks and Saxons, moved into the territory. The Franks attacked the Frisians several times during the 8th century, and Charlemagne ultimately completed the conquest of Frisian lands. This led to the integration of the native tribes and their settlements into the Carolingian Empire. There were many attempts to Christianize the local population, though resistance persisted in some areas. Around the 9th and 10th centuries, the Carolingian Empire fragmented, and the region split into counties, duchies, and bishoprics, such as the County of Holland and the Bishopric of Utrecht. These became the political foundations of the medieval Netherlands. Chapter 2: Cities Rise. As mentioned earlier, the region was divided into multiple territories, but arguably the strongest and most influential was the Bishopric of Utrecht. With the arrival of the medieval period, the climate in the region became warmer, causing much of the water in the marshes to evaporate, and making it easier for people to establish villages and towns. There was also significant population growth, which made the creation of new settlements necessary. Increased migration into the Netherlands brought new farming methods and tools, boosting agricultural productivity. All of this contributed to the rapid urban growth between the 11th and 13th centuries, transforming the region into one of Europe's most urbanized areas. Well-known cities such as Amsterdam began to emerge. Many of these cities developed forms of self-governance and autonomy. Over time, they attracted traders and craftsmen, further accelerating growth. Economic expansion was driven largely by shipbuilding, sea trade, efficient river transport, and textile production. Merchants often held considerable power in city councils, and the region became wealthier and more educated, especially in the major urban centers. Although conflicts occurred occasionally, political fragmentation decreased under the Burgundian dukes, who sought to unify much of the region. Their rule strengthened centralized administration, taxation, and legal reforms, laying the foundations for later Habsburg control and ultimately the Dutch Revolt. Chapter 3: Revolt. The Burgundian domination led to the Habsburg consolidation of the Netherlands under Charles V, who created a more centralized political structure. However, this was not an easy process, as it resulted in increased taxation that was deeply unpopular among local elites. Many cities wanted to preserve their traditional privileges and opposed centralization in general. Religious conflict between Catholicism and emerging Protestant movements also intensified during this period. strict Catholic policies, along with the Inquisition and anti-heresy laws, created widespread fear and resentment. This tension culminated in the iconoclastic fury of 1566, when Protestant crowds destroyed Catholic images and decorations in churches across the Low Countries. These developments convinced the Spanish king, Philip II, that the Netherlands required direct military intervention to preserve Catholicism and royal authority. He sent the Duke of Alba to restore order by force. Alba's regime executed and exiled thousands, confiscated property, and imposed harsh repression, which deepened anti-Spanish sentiment throughout the region. This climate of fear and anger sparked a massive rebellion led by the noble William of Orange. He had been one of the victims of Alba's policies, losing his lands and being forced into exile. From abroad, he raised an army and secured funding from German allies to support uprisings in the Netherlands. The capture of Brielle in 1572 marked the moment when he became the recognized leader of the revolt. He gained broad support due to his advocacy of religious tolerance for both Catholics and Protestants. Eventually, northern provinces such as Holland, Zeeland, and Utrecht formed a defensive alliance known as the Union of Utrecht, which became the early political foundation of the Dutch Republic and embraced William's principles of autonomy and tolerance. Although the Spanish succeeded in assassinating him on Philip II's orders, the revolt continued. His death only strengthened his legacy as a martyr and the symbolic father of the Dutch Republic. Military and political consolidation over the following decades ultimately led to the Peace of Westphalia in 1648, which formally recognized Dutch independence. Chapter 4: The Dutch Golden Age. After receiving independence, the northern provinces formed a republic with no monarch. This new state became known as the Dutch Republic. It was a federation of 7 provinces, each with its own laws, politics, and economy. Even so, Holland held the most power because of its wealthy merchants and economic dominance. Amsterdam soon became one of Europe's most important commercial hubs. Dutch merchants controlled much of the grain trade that fed large parts of Western Europe, and the profits fueled the Republic's strength. In 1602, the Dutch founded the VOC, the Dutch East India Company. It was the world's first multinational corporation, with shareholders, its own global fleet, and fortified trading posts in regions such as South and Southeast Asia, Africa, and Japan. Later, another company, the WIC, the West India Company, expanded Dutch influence into the Atlantic world. Amsterdam created the Exchange Bank to support these commercial networks, helping the city become the financial center of Europe. The Republic's survival depended on the sea. That is why the Dutch focused on technological innovation and protecting their maritime trade routes at any cost, even against rivals like England and Spain. The Dutch continued to practice religious tolerance, although Calvinism became the dominant public church. This tolerance attracted migrants with skills, capital, and international connections that strengthened Dutch cities. Philosophers such as Spinoza, along with many artists, flourished during this period. Despite these achievements, politics within the Republic were far from stable. 2 factions competed for influence: the Orangists, who supported strong leadership under the House of Orange, and the Republican regents, wealthy merchant families who preferred decentralized power. These tensions shaped Dutch politics for centuries, leading to periods without a national leader and moments when the House of Orange held near monarchical authority. Chapter 5: The Making of Modern Holland. The Republic experienced its golden age until the late 1600s, when powerful rivals such as England and France emerged. This led to wars that drained the Republic's resources. Global trade competition also increased as other countries expanded their own empires, limiting Dutch profits. The Dutch Republic remained influential, but its earlier unmatched dominance gradually faded. Internal and external pressures weakened the Republic further, leading to clashes between reformists and conservatives. On top of that, the French Revolution destabilized the region, and French armies invaded the Netherlands in 1795. This invasion caused the collapse of the Dutch Republic. It was soon replaced by the French-supported Batavian Republic. The Batavian Republic lasted only a few years before it was transformed into the Kingdom of Holland, ruled by Napoleon's brother Louis. After Napoleon's defeat, the major European powers supported the creation of a new Dutch state, the Kingdom of the Netherlands, ruled by the House of Orange. What we now know as the Netherlands and Belgium were initially part of this same kingdom, but the union did not last long. Belgium separated in 1830. This marked the beginning of the modern Netherlands. The country industrialized rapidly, building key infrastructure, factories, and railways. Populations grew, and the political system modernized as well. It became a constitutional monarchy with a modern parliamentary system. However, the 20th century brought new challenges. Nazi Germany occupied the Netherlands during World War II, and the war devastated cities and communities. After liberation in 1945, the country rebuilt quickly. It became a founding member of NATO and the European Union and made major advances in economic and technological development. The Netherlands of today is characterized by its highly developed economy, innovation, global trading power, sustainability efforts, and strong democratic institutions. The country underwent many changes throughout the centuries to become what it is now. Today's Netherlands, prosperous, democratic, diverse, and globally connected, is the product of that long journey. This sums it up, guys. This video will definitely come in handy if you have a history exam. Make sure to support Uncle Vasil's endeavors. So please like, share, and subscribe. Until next time.